I'm Dom Hayden-Davis, Senior Lecturer in Physical Education at Roehampton University. The students today are third years on the BA Primary Education course, but they have a subject specialism in Physical Education. Today's sessions will be part of the Investigating Practice module, where they are having to think about more than one thing at a time, because a lot of them have identified the fact they want to include all children in their lessons, but feel that if they're focusing on one child, what are they doing with the other ones? We're going to start off by finding out what it was you've done since Wednesday, because Wednesday's session was really good, lots of good stuff coming out of it, lots of discussion, debate, thinking going on, which is obviously what we want. The session today is going to mainly have three parts. First of all, we talk about what the students have read in between sessions. It's very much a module where they need to be going away, reading books, articles about their area they're interested in. So it's very much about them being in control of their own learning. They can bring that back to us and then we discuss it together, and they can actually give each other pointers on things that they've read. So they're not all reading all of the journal articles, but they are talking about them and becoming more critical of the things that they're reading. Who's got anything they want to talk to us about that they've come that's found rather exciting, interesting, or just something that's annoyed them from what they've read? Laura.
This reading basically sums up everything we were talking about on Wednesday, about the fact that teachers don't have enough training with special educational needs, and especially in PE as well. And he was talking about just how children feel with special educational needs in PE, and their findings indicated that they really enjoy PE when they're fully included, but they feel a bit restricted because of limited teacher training and things like that as well. Like obviously there's going to be restrictions. And the Every Child Matters came in, and about LSAs as well, and how they aren't trained in PE, so their help in PE sometimes is a bit of a hindrance rather than a help, which is a quote from it, not me saying it.
Who's had, when they've been teaching PE, who's actually had some LSA or teaching assistant support?
No.
A couple of you. Sally, was it?
It was for one individual child.
There's one, so they knew that child, they talked with them in their lesson. What was the special need?
I can't remember. It was disability.
It was some kind of physical disability, but they were there specifically for that. Did anyone have actually just a TA coming generally at all? Okay, so it's a lesson they stayed out from. Michelle?
No, I had a specific child with a disability. I don't know what the disability or the learning difficulty was, but she could hardly talk, she could hardly balance, things like that. But she had one helper that was with her all of the time. But whenever she done my lessons, which was mostly dance, she refused any help whatsoever from the helper. She just went mad and told the helper to go away because she just wanted to do what she wanted to do. So the helper was more of a hindrance than a help.
Okay.
In that particular
case. What was that? Who's that article by?
Janine Coates and Philip Vickerman. It's the Let Children Have Their Say. If anyone wants a copy of it, I can sort it out at the end.
And obviously on Wednesday, lots of swappings of articles and things like that. And it should be that you can come and say, actually, I found a really good one, you need that one. Yeah, I'm not saying copy it off for them, just let them know where they can get it from. Okay, who else has read anything the last couple of days, or something that you read before Wednesday that actually you didn't get a chance to share? Chris?
I've read an article about introducing exercise and sport to individuals with autism. It's by a lady called Amanda Durand, but it's a lot of approaches of how to approach teaching children with autism in physical education. It started off by giving sort of things that you need to think about. So you need to know the needs of the child, what do they like, dislike, their strengths and weaknesses, what affects their sensory system most. And they said another important thing is ask parents and carers, because they can often be a good source to find out what could be the needs of the child.
Let's stop you there for a second. Who was listening to that thinking, is he talking about autism or is he talking about something else? Needing to know what the children do, talking about the parent, things like that. Okay? So a lot of the stuff you're going to read in the specific stuff about autism, things like that, are things that you should be drawing across for all the other children within it, be it special needs or gifted and talented work or different things like that. Okay? So make those connections between things, and as I've said before, make those connections between what you're doing in PE and what you're doing in maths, English and all the other subjects as well. So you can start to get an all-round picture of those children. So Chris has taken on his reading. Who didn't share one last week? Who wasn't here? Because Alex, you're looking more at gender and boys' dance and things like that. Have you actually managed to find any readings particularly on that?
I have, but it's...
Were they any good, those readings?
Everything I've read it doesn't seem to focus specifically on that. They all seem to link back into like teaching styles and that kind of thing. So rather than it being how to engage boys in dance, it's more about just engaging the learner full stop, which is probably where it's going to end up anyway, because it's like the same with Sen, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just all about every individual is different rather than groups of people and assuming that that group of people are going to be any different than any other group. I suppose if you're looking at like sort of personalised learning, then that covers all aspects anyway.
What might be some of the things in boys' dance that might limit them? You know, if we haven't got the readings to back it up, what have been our experiences? We found if we've been teaching dance that boys don't enjoy it, or have we found the opposite?
I found the opposite with mine. When I was teaching the year sixes last year, I taught dance, and I did it specifically to the Olympics. So we were talking about football and other sort of sports that boys tend to be more interested in, to link it into dance, to get their interest into the dance rather than them thinking that it's just a girls thing. Because when I first said dance, they just their faces, they just really didn't want to do it. And then as soon as I mentioned that they were going to be playing with footballs and things as well, the boys came up with some brilliant results, and their dances were really good.
Okay, challenge for you. With the person next to you, I want you to think about what I'm about to say. We shouldn't think about special educational needs or gifted and talented in PE, because we should be thinking just about individual children. So we shouldn't target any support beyond the individual child. 1 minute with the person next to you. Should we target or should we not target?
That's what I'm saying. Practice
if they are, it's not necessarily targeting a particular group of people, just targeting each individual child.
may not actually be inclusive, you may be targeting.
So it's like, what aspect are you actually targeting? So you still have to then gear it down to the individual.
Okay, who wants to respond?
We were just saying that if we were aiming to teach personalised learning and meeting the needs of everyone anyway, then we shouldn't have to label children as special educational needs and gifted and talented, because our personalised learning would adapt for all of them anyway.
Okay, anyone have a different view than that?
If you've got a group of, say, 30 children and your task is to deliver 30 specifically tailored lessons, that's a bit of an almighty task, isn't it?
No, but it's not 30 specifically tailored lessons. It's one lesson that incorporates everyone's level of ability.
So give me an example of how you do it for, I don't know, pick a task and how you do that.
You pick a task.
So, right, so,
me on the spot.
Let's take
Dance, because she
what?
maybe dance.
Dance, right, so you will take dance and we'll take one specific
Just practice.
learning, don't know.
Okay, so you're saying dance, what's the...
rotations. So like, and let's say you've got somebody, I don't know, so you've got 30 different children of all different abilities, and...
First of all, you would make them experiment with different rotations and different travel paths and give them key ideas on how to rotate or turn or move in a particular way, and then base it from that, from what they can do, and then build upon from what they can do.
How do you do that with each individual child?
Well, it's going to be... you're going to have groups of people in the end that can do particular things and that kind of go together.
Well,
so it's for you to kind of... No, but it's you to find the links between those individual children for them to be able to work together.
But then that's grouping them, that's not personalised, that's like saying you've got those ability groups, you've got, right, those can do that, they can do that.
No, finding the links between them. Not saying that necessarily you all can do the same exact move, but your move complements that move, that goes into that move kind of thing, and base it from that. So it's taking their initial thoughts and building upon that.
It's taking the idea that you want to include all children at their own individual levels, but taking the realistic point of view that actually is looking at commonalities between them, and perhaps within part of a session you're going to more favour one type of learning need, whereas later on in that session or the following week in a different lesson you're going to focus more on the other children. So it's not just saying actually in one session I can cover everyone's needs, because that's going to be nearly impractical. But it's saying across their experience, their learning experience, you need to make sure you are planning that all of them can achieve in the different ways that they can. So it's not easy, and that's almost what you're looking through in this module is the rhetoric is that we should be achieving this, we should be getting all children included, but what's your reality of experience as you move through those kind of things?
And you've got the whole like inclusion can exclude as well that we were talking about on Wednesday, and how the child can feel excluded because they've been given something different to the whole class. So
which is why I like activities that are sort of differentiated by outcome rather than within the task itself.
Yeah.
So rather than saying you're going to work on this equipment, which then might label them as higher ability or lower ability, which I think is a bit bonkers. But if you do it so they choose their own stuff and it's sort of differentiated by outcome, then I think it's just going to be more inclusive anyway.
Differentiating by themselves, so you give them a choice of equipment and they can choose what they would like to work with because they know that they can work with that, and then it's their own choice, not yours.
Okay. When I was training, a lecturer said to me, lots of different types of differentiation. The most popular with teachers is differentiation by outcome. They then described that as just being lazy, because you're basically saying, I'm doing the task, the children will do something. Do we agree? Do we disagree?
Because you've got to consider the input you give throughout the lesson. That's going to be the most important part. If you leave children to differentiate it by sort of accessing an activity in different levels for their own ability, then your input's going to be really important throughout the lesson. So you're not just sitting back and going carry on, you're kind of thinking about the questioning and things like that.
Right, Kirsty, you were looking at classroom environments and how that can be moved into the hall. Have you managed to find any readings on that yet?
I was looking at the magazine, but I've not yet found anything about the environment and using the hall and displays and stuff.
Has anyone put any displays up in their halls while they've been on practice?
Yeah.
No? Some have, some haven't. Who has? And did it work? Was it helpful?
I had sort of words or action cards and pictures because they were doing mini beast movements and things, but they didn't seem to pay much attention to them. They were reception, so it was. But I think because they weren't used to having anything on the walls, they just were concentrating more on moving.
And that's going to be part of this thing. Is if you try something new, and the children really aren't ready for it, it's sometimes it can backfire and be even worse than it was to start off with. Chris, yours is one that interests me greatly because you're looking at actually what you need to do as a teacher to access more support. So working with the sort of the support systems within the school.